Much has been said about the coming horror of Ferdinand Marcos Sr. being given an honored burial at the Libingan of Bayani. Even the thought of it is already a stab in the heart of our generation and our families, especially those who fell in the dark days of the dictatorship. Many of those who fought were very young people and who came from the working class and the peasantry, and a significant number came from this university. If the new government and the Marcoses succeed in doing this, it would inflict one more damage to the national memory, already battered by the cultural machinations of our former colonial masters and the betrayal of our elders. To beat off our indignant opposition and justify an admittedly and openly admitted payback for the favors coming from the Marcoses, our new president has come out with two arguments. First, that the dictator will be buried as a soldier, not as a hero. And second, that it will appease the lingering resentments of a section of the population loyal to Marcos, and that will help unify the nation. Either way, it will not hold water. For Mr. Marcos, it's not only a soldier, he was president, a dictator. And the cemetery did not contain all of them could not claim as heroes. It is something that is contested, and so that will not unify the nation. The issue of the dictator's burial in the Libingan has taken on a life of its own beyond the question about Marcos' wartime record as a soldier, or the bigger questions about the heroism of the persons buried in that cemetery. The issue is unquestionably one of cultural symbolism that is essential to the formation of society's consciousness. In our case, the national memory, the national consciousness that should be the home of the values that we treasure best and what we consider as right or wrong as a people. The dictatorship and its legacy of massive human rights violations, the plunder of the public treasury, heavy indebtedness, and the surrender of our sovereignty, and its violent suppression of the people's movements. All of this should have no place of respect in our national heritage. I anticipate that some of you will ask me where the left, or more precisely, the various formations of the left, stand on this issue. I do not see any reason why the left should be divided on this. As a matter of course, the left is and should naturally be strongly opposed to the Libingan movement. Despite the rather harsh and bitter and unfortunate exchange of words between Eta Rosales and Jose Maria Sison, both left veterans of the anti-dictatorship struggle, and both of whom contributed much to the struggle in their own particular status and ways. Their statements, when read carefully, would show that both are opposed to the Libingan period. I believe that this matter should be allowed to rest. We should take the bigger picture, that the issue goes beyond just burying a man long dead in a cemetery, whose name is contested. Unity is needed to face the far bigger challenges, far bigger in importance than nuances that might be dictated by particular objectives and circumstances. As already stated, what is at issue here is rewriting the history of restoring the dictator his dictatorship and his legacy to a place of honor in our history. In fact, this process of restoration has long been underway and has achieved much. The Libingan event will just be a high point. A survey done by the Social Weather Station in 2011 shows that half of the population favored the Bureau and a good 30% were positive about an official burial. A slight majority in the Visayas and Mindanao were against, but across classes, A, B, C, D, and E, a clear majority was in favor. Put this in the continuing picture of an almost electoral win by Marcos Jr. in the last vice presidential election. And we have a Marcos restoration just waiting for a formal crowning ceremony which the Libingan rights must just provide. Many things have been said why this is so. Our institutions are blamed. Ourselves are blaming ourselves for failing to tell the story of our nation during those times. Partly true. But these are obfuscations unless we pointedly and concretely name who are at fault. The national elites, especially those at the helm of the Yellow EDSA Republic, from Aquino to Aquino, and those who share their powers, fortunes, and privileges, I believe are the most responsible for this coming restoration. They're either in command or exercise tremendous influence over powerful institutions of society, including its myth-making mechanisms. Name most of the monstrous legacy of the Marcos dictatorship. Political power in the hands of the few, political dynasties, poverty and inequality, the inordinate power of the military and government, indebtedness, hindrance to Moro and indigenous people's self-determination, U.S. military bases, and servility to imperial powers and global finance. And they are still very much present around. I will cite just two examples. The Coco levy, which was stolen by Marcos and Danting Cojuangco, now amounting to around 100 billion pesos, are still outside the hands of those who should benefit, the coconut farmers. Hindi pa nababawi po yun. Nasa gobyerno na ngayon, pero hanggang ngayon pinagtatalunan pa. And that is just 40%. There is a remaining 20% that the Supreme Court has already decided in favor of Danting Cojuangco. Although, in the contested money, one of the shareholders is named Ferdinand Bago. Now, what the heck to many of our people if the dictator is honored? When we honor with every election the same old elites that cannot solve the country's problems. When most EDSA plunderers can go scot-free after a brief period of trial and detention, and so on and so forth. What is more, the remembrances, if the redemption from the Marcos years is reduced to the 4-day EDSA revolt and the heroism of Ninoy and Cory Aquino, although much deserved, but with the many cast in supporting roles. What about the thousands of families who gave their best sons and daughters? Quite a number of them coming from this university. They gave them to the struggles. The communities of hundreds of thousands, stretching to millions, who can take pride of at least one among them who gave their all to this struggle. Kulang na kulang po ang kwento tungkol dyan. It is they, the EDSA elites, from Aquino to Aquino who laid the grounds for the Marcos restoration. What Duterte will do is just to crown. There is one difference, though, that distinguishes post-EDSA from martial law. It is the recognition of human rights, in particular civil and political rights. But the EDSA elites failed to prove its raison d'etre. The liberal argument that individual rights, even the whole gamut of civil and political rights, are enough to make democracy to work for all, give all a life of dignity. Or for that matter, that the expansion of such rights to the social, to the economic, and the cultural, which the international covenants and the 1987 Constitution enshrined, will be enough to enable the people to overturn the long-entrenched structures of inequality and oppression. I hate to say that the academe is incomplicit in this case. After EDSA, it turned mainly its discourse to issues of democratization and identity issues, and away from the unfinished revolution which cries for structural changes and solutions to post-colonial problems. Also, the NGO community, which has been principally responsible for compartmentalizing analysis and action for change. For children, children lang; for women, women lang; for labor, labor lang; for desert lang. Mga issues, ganun lang, nothing, nobody consolidates the whole for people to see. And yet the truth can only be found in the whole. And of course, we in the left, even belonging to different stripes, we cannot get our act together. The new opening to the peace processes between the CPP-NPA and the GRP, and between the Moro Liberation Forces and the GRP, is relevant to the issue we are discussing today. These are welcome developments that must be nurtured by all. These are talks between highly unequal parties, and so we need to have those demanding real changes. On the agenda are the issues and problems that trace back to the period of the dictatorship, and the resolutions are relevant to overcoming the social damage symbolized by the Libingan issue. Every advance gained in the peace process, particularly the steps necessary for the just resolution of the major political, economic, and social problems of the country, will be good for our country and our people. I believe that we can raise a strong and effective opposition to the Libingan rights. The Bawat Bato initiative is something very commendable, and I think we have to join and we have to contribute. I, for one, has many stones to prepare. My wife-to-be disappeared. She was kidnapped by the dictatorship, by the military, and I have many friends and comrades in the struggle, very young, who lost their lives in those struggles. But I also sense that with the help of the new administration, who appears and who seems to be a really strong president, they can push through with it. Pwede yung talagang matuloy, yung living na yun. And the Marcoses will certainly organize a very dramatic presentation. They will organize a funeral march. They can organize thousands from Ilocos Norte to the Libingan ng mga Bayani and hold a grand funeral for somebody whom the administration calls a soldier. In other words, this will be a long fight, but we have to launch a widespread education drive in the schools, in the communities, among ourselves. And I hope that the University of the Philippines, which is the intellectual home to many of the leaders of the left, of the many men and women who fought the dictatorship, and all others who fought for a new Philippines, to use its intellectual resource and stature to promote dialogues and studies that will recover our national pride and our national memory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ric Reyes, for discussing the experience of the Philippine left and what we need to do in terms of facing the remaining problems, as well as the proposal, of course, to bury former President Marcos in the libingan ng mga bayani.